Would you rather go to church on a Sunday morning with family or discover the long-lost remains of a prophet who is the center of the largest religion in Thedas? Travel to the Indonesian islands to see Komodo dragons? Or travel to the peaks of a mountain to challenge a high dragon to an epic battle to the death? Wonder if you'd ever survive a zombie apocalypse with your friends? Or fight off an undead horde commanded by a demon from destroying a village, sword and board in hand? Lucky for you, you can do all that and more in BioWare's beloved RPG, Dragon Age Origins. This gem released all the way back in 2009. Almost 15 years later, we ask the question, is it still worth playing in 2023? In today's video, we answer that question. We'll be discussing the game's story, gameplay, and replayability to give it a final verdict at the end of the video. Let's dive into this game and see if it still holds up. Dragon Age's story is undoubtedly the strongest aspect of this game. You are a Grey Warden in the medieval world of Thedas, battling the Blight. Before that though, depending on what class and background you choose, you'll have a different start to the game towards becoming a Grey Warden. You could choose to be a human noble, a dwarf commoner, or an elf. I usually put these aspects of the game in the gameplay section to discuss the character creation, but what race and origin you pick at the start helps shape your journey and what influence you have as a Grey Warden. The intro cinematic, narrated by a veteran Grey Warden named Duncan, introduces you to how the first Blight ever started. It sets the tone for the grim and dark world you're about to step into and the dangers to come. What exactly is a Blight though? A Blight is when the world is in danger of being overrun by the Darkspawn, which are kind of like orcs and goblins, but is only officially called a Blight when there is an archdemon present leading them. As a Grey Warden, you have the ability to sense the Darkspawn, making you more effective at killing them. You become a Grey Warden through a ritual called the Joining, where prospects drink fresh Darkspawn blood combined with the blood of an archdemon. Some survive the process, but most don't. You must undertake the process once you choose to become a Warden, or else they kill you to keep the ritual a secret. The ritual takes place in Ostagar, where you're introduced to a variety of characters, both integral to the lore of Thedas, like King Kalen, or to your story as a Warden, like Wynn, who potentially becomes your companion later on. Here is where you're supposedly meant to end the threat of the Darkspawn after defeating them in a large battle. King Kalen and Duncan on the front with the main forces, while you and Alistair, another new Warden, are to light the fire atop a tower to signal a group led by Tairn Loghain to pincer the Darkspawn. After lighting the fires though, Loghain betrays the king and calls his troops to leave, leaving the main force including the king, Duncan, and all the Wardens in Ferelden to die at the hands of the Darkspawn army. You and Alistair survive though. Rescued by Flemeth, an important character you meet on the way to becoming a Warden, she sets you off with her daughter Morrigan to help you in your quest to unite the nation of Ferelden against the Blight, as is your duty as the last of the Wardens. With that, your newly formed party sets off to seek allies to aid you in your quest. It's not that simple though. The whole nation is in disarray. With the sudden death of the king, evil spawning everywhere, and Loghain placing the blame on the Wardens for the king's defeat at Ostagar, it will take some work and politics to draw people to your side. Each area you visit in the game will have its own set of problems. You decide how you fix them, and this is where the role-playing aspect of the game comes into place. Are you intimidating and solves things with violence first? Or do you intend to try and get on everyone's good side in hopes that it all falls into place smoothly? Your choices during these matters will shape how people see you and if they will cooperate or not. These choices even affect your party members, since if you do not stand with their morals with most choices, they may just leave the party altogether. Choice is a vital mechanic in the game and really brings out the role player in you. You really feel like it matters and you're helping shape the nation of Ferelden with your influence. Choices also affect gameplay, making some sections easier or harder. The world of Thedas is alive, and this game does a great job at making it feel so. The game places a heavy emphasis on dialogue, as all NPCs are voice acted to a high quality. In almost all interactions, your character will always have something to say, meaning you're always in control to some degree. Cutscenes are well made and add to the storytelling, but do remember that this game was made a long time ago, so you'll be seeing the effects of its age in the animations. Being that the game is heavily affected by your choices, 2 playthroughs can vary drastically story-wise. It's possible to lose key characters and even kill off potential companions. Sorry about that, Zevran. Maybe next time. All in all, Origins does a good job at making the story fluid and adaptable. No matter what choice you make, nothing ever seems out of place. and you understand that it was you who made it that way. Now let's move on to the gameplay section. Moving on to the character creation section. Here you choose your sex, yes it matters, race, class, and origin. Races have unique stat bonuses and classes define the abilities and equipment you can use. There are 6 origins available, but based on your race and class, only 1 or 2 will become available to you, so choose wisely. The whole process is pretty intuitive and there are sliders present for precise tweaking, but nothing too out of the box, given that this game was made 14 years ago. You can play Dragon Age Origins from an isometric point of view or from a third-person point of view, but for me, isometric is the way to go. There are only a few moments where it's better to use the third-person perspective. You control a party of up to 4 characters, one of which will always be your own. Companions may be switched out at the party's camp or at any safe place where the game will allow it. Dialogue is also a huge part of the gameplay. Based on the skills your character possesses and, to some extent, your origin and previous decisions, you'll be able to sway NPCs to your favor in multiple parts of the game. Depending on what you choose, you gain favor among your companions. Favor not only shows how well you've bonded with the companion, but it also allows the option for romance, if you're able to, and also unlocks passive buffs based on certain favor thresholds. Combat is done through real-time with pausing mechanics, similar to games like Pillars of Eternity or Pathfinder Kingmaker. Combat is simple. You select one or multiple companions, right-click on an enemy, and watch your party kill or get killed by the enemy. Based on the class you've chosen, you'll have abilities you can activate given you have enough stamina or mana to turn the tide of battle in your favor. This is made much easier by the pausing mechanic, which lets you plan out your tactics without the stress of needing to be quick about it. Each class will also have 4 specializations, which add bonuses to stats and a whole skill line dedicated to that subclass, which further deepen the combat of the game, but you must first seek out books to learn the specializations or trainers who are willing to teach you first. While the combat is simple, it's hard to master. Even during times that you think you should be going through an encounter easily, you'll find yourself in trouble if you don't prioritize targets or protect your squishy party members. Enemy threat levels are represented by the color of their names. White names are easy mobs, yellow names pose a higher threat if not prioritized, while orange names present a threat to your whole party. Given that your party may have trouble dealing with whites and yellows, you may also overcome orange named enemy encounters given you've prepared well and understand your party's strengths and weaknesses. NPC behavior can also be tweaked using the tactics menu. Here you can set the behavior of your party members during combat. There are general options you may select, but there are also tactics slots you can change that will tell party members what to do given a certain situation. This was a bit confusing for me at first, but I saw its convenience later on in the game, when the encounters get really long and you see yourself overlooking a few things during battle. You can further augment your party's capabilities through equipment. Equipment is either found as treasure, drops from enemies, or rewards from quests. Equipment is pretty straightforward and based on your chosen class. Heavy armor best suits warriors, medium armor towards rogues, and light armor towards mages. You'll find a lot of items in Dragon Age Origins will have unique effects that will spice up any character build, and this makes obtaining them that much sweeter. Gameplay is a little slow in the beginning, but it ramps up as levels increase and you unlock skills that you'll have to use during combat. It never felt stale even during the minor encounters, as most encounters always have reasoning behind them rather than them being random fights during your travels. Speaking of travels, you'll be traveling from area to area using a world map. Clicking on an area initiates travel, and sometimes there will be encounters in between that progress quests or are just random fights. These random fights don't repeat though, and there are only a handful of encounters initiated through travel that occur without a solid reasoning behind them. How you fix each area's problems will shape how the final battle of the game will take place. Do you gather all allies, or maybe you missed a few due to choices made that went south? Maybe you failed an encounter or didn't finish a quest that could have given you leverage in a meeting of lords. You'll really want to explore every nook and cranny of this game, as you'll never know when you'll find the next unique piece of gear, quest, or information to help you on your journey. Now let's talk boss fights. Oh man, these are the best part of the game. The challenge presented by these fights are so fun, and it tests your party's capabilities in a way that's hard but fair. Not only this, but the fights are epic. They're always orange named enemies, so you know right off the bat you're in for a good fight, and they'll always have satisfying loot behind them after being conquered. No doubt, the boss fights in this game are key to hooking the player in. But now it's time to stop talking about the game's good sides and venture into the bad. And some of them are very bad. Starting with the smaller issues, the camera angles can get a little weird sometimes. Switching from isometric view to third-person view sometimes bugs out and doesn't fully switch to third person, needing to redo the switching process until it works. The camera can't move too far away from the party as well and will snap back if it does, making your view of the area very limited. This is an issue as most of the game's encounters start when enemies notice you out of camera view, and ranged enemies can cast spells and attack out of camera view. Now this one wasn't a big issue, but sometimes visual bugs would occur, like textures not loading and just being pure black. It wasn't game breaking, and I expected bugs like this to happen for a game of this age. There was a lack of party formation options. Your party would always move in a fixed diamond shaped pattern if you have the maximum party members, and you couldn't deviate from that. You could switch party movement from move freely to hold position to get them to stay put, but in battle that also halts the AI from doing anything beyond what you tell the character to do, nullifying the tactics you've set for each party member. If there's an encounter you absolutely know is going to happen, like you see mercenaries in the distance waiting for you, you cannot initiate the fight with a hostile spell. You must wait for them to aggro you before you can start hitting them. Mage spells feel very impactful, but archery spells never felt like they did much. Inventory management is a bit of a hassle since you get a ton of junk items you never really know what to do with. Now for the bigger problems. There was a game-breaking bug that occurred during my boss fight with Branka. Keep in mind that I went into this fight earlier than intended, so it took me a long time to beat this fight. And when I finally did, the game bugged out and didn't realize that I've beaten Branka. The game continued in a combat state and I was unable to speak to the NPC, which required me to do it all over again. This almost broke me, but I really loved how the game was panning out, and I already proved to myself I beat her once, so I could do it again. Finally, the game crashed a lot. Apparently, it's known in the community that the Ultimate Edition of the game crashes a lot in certain points, usually around the first time you get to Ostagar prior to becoming a Warden. For me, there was no turnaround to this. Verifying file integrity, reinstalling, and updating drivers didn't work. The only thing that did work was downloading a third-party app called LAA, or Large Address Aware, and replace that with the original app icon in the Steam directory and launch it from there to make it work. After that, I still experienced crashing, but seldomly and only when I was playing for a long amount of time. Additionally, I noticed that the game slows down the longer it's active, which could be attributed to the crashing even after using LAA. I could get into more details of the gameplay, but that would take too long. So for now, let's move on to the next section, replayability. I finished the game in a total of 62 hours. Not the 100-hour long adventure I was expecting, but any longer than that, and it probably would have felt dragging anyway. I still had a little left to do after finishing the game, but since I only had one save file, I wasn't able to backtrack and do them. I'd say 80 hours would be a good completion time if you were to finish all the quests. Tracking down all the codex entries though would be another story. This game offers a variety of story paths from the origin of your character alone, and much more from the choices you make and how you roleplay. Choosing a different class will force you to learn different playstyles and different party combinations, and different party members will offer different companion quests and insights at certain points of the game. There is a ton of variety in this game despite its age, and I'd say the various ways you could tackle the quest lines here definitely could merit another run. After finishing the base game, I went on to do the Witch Hunt DLC, which was a short but lore-heavy campaign that has implications in the future games. Yes, if I didn't state it already, I'll say it now. Your choices here may affect the situations and outcomes in the sequels, provided you still have your save file, of course. Witch Hunt was probably an 8-hour experience, while Dragon Age Awakening, another DLC, took me around 15 hours to complete. There are also other DLCs with standalone campaigns, but I only played the two mentioned above. As you can use your save file from the base game in the two DLCs mentioned, there is a lot more for you to enjoy after beating the game, making replayability a huge strong point of the game. That, combined with the branching narrative and open-ended questing experience, you have a formula for what some people think as one of the best RPGs out there to this day. To answer the question, is Dragon Age Origins worth playing in 2023? The answer is a resounding yes. All the things I mentioned above make it worthy of an RPG that is sure to satisfy your high fantasy needs. Although the camera and bugs could make combat clunky at times, and the fact that you'll need a few tweaking before making it playable, the game's strengths more than make up for it. If you're a fan of RPGs and haven't played this game yet, or you're looking to get into the genre, then you'll definitely want to pick this one up. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. How did you like it? Did you agree with the points I made? If there's anything you want to share about Dragon Age Origins, may it be your own experience or your own thoughts on it, please do comment them down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want me to go for Dragon Age 2 next, let me know. Thanks again for watching and have a great day ahead.